From MLU headquarters in Philadelphia, this is Cleats and Cufflinks.
We have a fantastic interview with Ann Watson coming up, right?
Yeah, it's going to be great. Now, Anne did ask us to make one correction prior to the thing because she emailed us after the interview with a little bit of a math correction.
Right.
So you'll know the point. There's a point where we say 1 out of 6 players in her school plays Ultimate. It's actually more like 1 out of 10. Which is still incredible.
Right. It's what makes me laugh. She was like, it's only 1 out of 10. Like, okay. 1 out of 10 is incredible.
Yeah.
1 out of 10 kids is playing Ultimate Frisbee is a fantastic ratio. So
right. But I felt like we owed her she wrote us specifically for that. So we had to throw that in there. But a great interview, and I think you'll all enjoy it.
We'll all enjoy it. So here you go. Okay, so Nick and I are here with Ann Watson. Ann, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
We're doing great. You are one of the people that we have wanted to interview for quite some time because you have quite the interesting story.
Yeah, coming at us from Vermont, correct?
This is true, yeah.
So where in Vermont and how cold is it?
Oh, gosh. Well, so I'm in Montpelier, Vermont, right in the center, which is the capital, and it is snowing right now. It's kind of freezing rain, so I'd guess it's about 32.
Now, in Vermont, it just snows all the time, right? So it's just how much snow?
It does never stop. Actually, it does snow a lot. We almost had a snow day today, but no such luck. We're just too prepared.
Great. Okay. So we have lots of questions for you, Ann. Is it okay if we put you on the hot seat?
Sure.
Well, first, would love the background because you've done some really interesting things with Ultimate Frisbee and varsity sports and school districts. But let's back up a second and just, where did you start playing? How did you find Ultimate Frisbee?
Oh, gosh. So I started playing a little bit when I was in college, but never actually joined the team where I went to school. And by the time I was a teacher, I just barely graduated from college and had just been hired. Truth be told, there was just this really hot guy who was like, you should come play Ultimate. And I was like, well, yes, I should. And so...
I had no idea we met before.
So of course I started playing, and then, the guy moved away. But I was hooked and, went from just playing pickup to playing summer league and then playing with some club teams that were around, and I've been just totally into it ever since, and that was like 10 years ago.
So I have to ask you, on behalf of all the people in my life who are teachers, what do you teach up there in Vermont?
Oh, so I teach physics.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of fun. We have a good time, but I know that's not everyone's experience.
Physics is that things where you can find out why the Frisbee goes where it goes, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
But in between that statement and actually knowing that, there is just a ton of math.
Okay. So much math. So much.
Okay, so first of all, I love the story. We always get good stories.
We get good stories.
So then, at your school you're teaching at now, do they have an Ultimate Frisbee team? Are you coaching them? Anything going on there?
Yeah, we have a team here. In fact, we actually have 3 teams here. So my school is relatively small. It's about 400 kids for 4 grades. And, which, means that having 50 kids play Ultimate is pretty remarkable. It's like 1 in every 6 kids or so, or 7 kids plays Ultimate. And it really just started with, one team that just had a lot of heart and had some really great players. We eventually divided into an A and a B team. Both of those were co-ed. And then last year, we went what we were calling varsity boys and varsity girls, and then a mixed gender B team. And there were 3 other schools in the area that also had the same kinds of divisions. So we could go to these schools, we could travel and have all 3 of those teams have somebody to play, which was excellent.
Now, Ann, what you're saying there is kind of crazy when you put it into context. You're saying 1 out of 6 students was playing Ultimate Frisbee. I mean, that's pretty much an amazing conversion, right? I mean, is that right? That's crazy.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So how did you do it?
want to at least credit like some of those kids who started the program. Gosh, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago now. They were like the star athletes of the school and valedictorians. They were well respected, highly visible kids, and so everyone wanted to do what they were doing. And so it got a lot of people generated a lot of interest, and then when I could say that we were going to tournaments and camping, and some of these tournaments had parties where there were bouncy castles, and gosh, it just the pitch writes itself. It's so easy. Yeah, we had a great turnout, and since we've done really well, we won states last year, which was exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So we, it's sort of been self-perpetuating at this point. I mean, I don't think we're going to grow much past 50. I would even doubt that we have 50 this coming spring, but, that's sort of the way it goes. And I'm just psyched that it's as popular as it is. I mean, we barely have a baseball team, and we barely have a lacrosse. We barely have a lacrosse team here also. So
very impressive.
It's kind of filling the void.
No, very, very, very impressive. And okay, let's go over the landscape of varsity ultimate frisbee. Is there any, besides Vermont, is there any other state that has varsity ultimate frisbee?
No, we are moving towards being the first state to have that designation. Because technically speaking, varsity, at least in Vermont, that word is sort of owned by the Vermont Principals Association, which is our governing organization for all statewide sports.
Okay, so that's actually a really good thing you brought up, which is what does varsity mean? So to take that a little further, varsity means that the school district itself as a whole for the state is saying that this sport is recognized and therefore is part of the, I don't know what the word is, like the curriculum or of a school?
Sure. It's sort of part of the catalog of state-recognized sanctioned sports, and it's sort of a distinguishing factor from being a club. So we've just been playing as sort of, quote, a club these last few years, and there was really no other option because for example, if someone wants to start a lacrosse team at their school, they could, but they aren't necessarily a varsity sport if they're not funded by their school. But they could become varsity. We could not become varsity because it wasn't state recognized. And that's where we're moving. And so now that it is recognized, we can become varsity, which is also to say, sort of the other half of that is that the school is funding it. That I as a coach would be paid and have all the same rules and regulations that other statewide sanctioned sports have to, obey, participate in.
So right now, you guys have gotten the sport sanctioned by the state Principals Association, I think you said, or the association
Yes.
that manages this. And
Yep.
now it's down to the school level where schools can now decide to add this sport as a varsity sport based on that sanctioning. But then that sport is then required to follow all the same rules that the other varsity sports do.
That's correct. And actually, in order for us to move forward, we need to have 9 schools who are funding their ultimate program. So, and that I believe that is at present also by division. So we need to have 9 open teams that are funded and 9 girls teams that are funded. So it's going to take a little development. We have more open teams than girls teams right now. So so we're right now in what is called a 2-year exhibition period. So this is where we're sort of seeing if the ultimate community likes being under their auspices, and if the Vermont Principals Association can work with us if we think this is a good match. And at the end of these 2 years, we have to, if we do want to move forward with full sanctioning, then we have to have these 9 schools. So hopefully, I think we're on track for that.
Well, certainly any way we can help, let us know. How many schools do you have? Do you know how many teams you have at the moment, or how many schools?
At least for open schools, I'm pretty sure we're going to hit our target of 9. If we're not there now, we're pretty close. We're probably at like 7 or 8. As for girls teams, so as far as I know, we probably will have 5 for this spring, and one of those teams is new as of this year, which is great. But the development of girls sports, or at least for ultimate, is it's just taking a little time, especially since it's so normal for, at least at the high school level, for girls to play in the open division. Schools are sort of scraping together anybody who wants to play of any gender. So it's pretty typical for there to be 2 or 3 girls on every open team, where there's only one team from that school.
Right.
So
And
we'll see.
Is this an all or nothing too? Like you need to have 9 girls teams and 9 boys teams, right? So it's you have to get both of them.
Well, actually, I believe we can ask for an extension for either one or both of those. I'm not sure if we can go forward with both, or let me rephrase. I'm not sure we can go forward with needing extensions on just one of them, not both of them. So we'll have to check into that.
Well, screw the extension. Let's just all get it done in the amount of time. And again, however we can help. So and the Boston Whitecaps, who I know are close, whatever we can do to have them help as well. So then this exhibition status is last 2 years. And when did it start? Is this just a few months old?
So that includes this school year. So it started basically in September.
Okay. So, Nick, you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, what do you think, you talked about it's a trial period kind of to see if, A, the programs stand up well in the schools, and B, the ultimate community likes to be working under these auspices. What do you think the benefits to this varsity status are and will be for the game and for the players and for the coaches and that sort of thing?
Oh my gosh. So there's so much. One thing I think is really helpful is just that it sort of guarantees that that a school will support and provide funding for the program. So like I have been working basically for free for the last 5 years. So the fact that coaches will be paid, it just adds sustainability to the program. And then non-financial support, like, that I will now be required to take first aid classes and, have concussion training and, all the same kinds of trainings that other coaches are required to go through. I see that as a huge benefit. And then, and also with transportation, that's actually turned out to be a huge issue for high school ultimate. There's at least one school that I know can only play home games because they're just a club, and so the school won't fund their transportation, and their transportation policy doesn't allow them to leave the school as an official team. That's driven by like parents or by students or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow, so there's that. Plus, I think right from the beginning, the kids who I was coaching, who were these valedictorians and, these star athletes, they were asking for this right from the start. They were like, when can we be official? When can we be a real sport? Sort of like Pinocchio. When can we be a real boy? I think there's a certain desire, at least for these high school kids that are working so hard, to have some legitimacy. There's always this question in ultimate of like, oh, well, how do we defend ourselves? So like, yeah, no, it's a real sport. Like we work just as hard, if not harder than any other sport out there. And so having this status, I think, sort of puts to rest that question.
That is so cool. First of all, everything you said is fantastic. It's fun to hear how much you will benefit as you deserve as a coach and how much the players will benefit, and to hear now the type of growth it can get if you hit the what are the points, the expectations that are set in front, which are 9 teams, boys and girls. Are there any other expectations, any other things you have to do besides facilitate those 18 teams?
Well, there's lots of sort of little rules that we will have to abide by, which does change the scene. So in Vermont, approximately 60% of the schools have rules against playing on Sundays, which, I mean, as an ultimate player, obviously, the second day of the tournament is usually a Sunday, and that's the way our high school tournaments have been set up as well. So if we're an official school sport, we have to, those schools that have those rules really would not be able to participate, and so we have to adjust our basically our whole schedule. Our states used to be our states tournament used to be on a Saturday and Sunday, and we're gonna have to change that because some of our schools that want to participate won't be able to. And then other things too, like we are not allowed to charge any student for participation. That's just a across the board rule. It's called no pay to play rule, and I think it makes sense. And what that means is that as a coach, I am no longer required to, not even required, I'm actually prohibited from requiring that my students become USAU members. Which is totally weird and different because now all the insurance and whatnot is under the Vermont Principals Association. It's under the school. I mean, if we want to go to tournaments that are USAU sanctioned, we can, but we would have to do all of the fundraising sort of together. Like all of that would have to come out of one pot, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I think, USAU's done a really nice job of kind of facilitating all of the levels of sport, but I think that they would be pleased that, it's becoming varsity and that they can, watch the states do exactly what you said. Now coaches are getting paid and players are getting all sorts of transportation stuff. I think everybody would agree it's a really positive thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we got some big questions coming up because this is something that you've done that nobody else has been able to pull off in 4 or 5 decades of getting ultimate frisbee, recognized as a varsity sport. How did you do it? I mean, I need to know. Like, what did you do that no one else could do?
Well, I don't know what other people have tried, so I don't know exactly what's different. But I can tell you about our process. There's a community of coaches that we call each other to arrange games and whatnot, and had for many years. There were a couple guys who ran an organization called the Vermont Youth Ultimate League, but they were sort of in transition and moving, and so I ended up finding myself, and along with 4 other coaches, sort of newly elected to this Vermont Youth Ultimate League, and so we tasked ourselves with figuring out what we were supposed to do, and one of those things was coming up with a schedule because the number of teams was becoming unwieldy. There wasn't like 3 people I needed to call, there was like 10, and so having someone make a schedule was going to be easier. And then the other thing was we really wanted to explore the possibility of becoming VPA certified. So this group of coaches invited the head of the VPA to one of our meetings, and we said, what would it take to do this, and what would be the requirements? How would you picture our community needing to change? And sort of got all of those details sort of worked out in that basically it wasn't a one-on-one meeting, but it was just him and the 5 of us, and that was really helpful. And we got his support. He said, the only reason Ultimate is not a state-sanctioned sport here is because no one's really asked. And I was like, well, okay then. So, we pitched it to the rest of the coaching community. We had a meeting, invited everyone, and said, we're thinking about making this pitch to the VPA. Do we have your support? What are your concerns? That sort of thing. And they generally gave us the thumbs up. So I asked for a copy of a different sports presentation. Volleyball just became a state-sanctioned sport in Vermont, so I wanted to see what their presentation had been because it was successful. And, heard from from the head there, what was sort of expected from us in this presentation, and then we just went for it. We
Amazing.
brought in. What's that?
It's amazing. I just love hearing the sport. I mean, basically, you did what maybe nobody had ever thought to do, which was actually go out there and pound the pavement and ask.
And just literally ask.
And just literally say, hey, we want this done. And, you could see the rewards from that. But, I mean, like, you can't see the huge grin on my face because it's just so impressive and I'm so happy.
Well, that's great. I mean, the other thing that they did ask of us was to get, I believe it was, again, 9 letters of support. We had to have 9 schools say, we support that Ultimate become a sanctioned sport. It was not the same thing as a letter of commitment that they would support, that they would fund the sport. We just needed something saying that they supported the inclusion of it. So, that took a little finagling, but we got those letters, and we ended up gathering a group of students and ADs and coaches, made this pitch to them, and they voted us in. That was kind of it.
So what we've really learned is the Vermont is all about the number 9. Just do everything in 9s, and you got it.
Yes, well, I think at one point it used to be 10, and then some sport was like, well, we got 9, but that's okay, right? Yeah, 9's fine.
Well, awesome. Okay, I got a hot seat question for you. How do you see in Vermont with now Varsity, how do you see it playing out with refs versus self-officiation?
Well, that's a good question. That's something that we have yet to sort of tackle. So just so you know how that will be decided. So now that we're a sport, or at least an exhibition sport, there's a committee just for Ultimate through that association, through the VPA, and it's the members of that committee that'll make any decisions about refs or about any other changes to rules, sidelines, like distances or anything like that. So it has come up, and I think that there's generally some support right now for some sort of low interference form of ref, sort of like an observer. But at least for the high school age, there's really, I think, a concern around safety. And I can certainly attest to that myself, like having students that are playing recklessly, and maybe the right call is that I should bench them, but really what happens is I take them off the field and like, really, you can't play like that. And then 2 subs later, we need to put him back in, and I don't really feel like I, as a coach, have a great mechanism for just kicking out a player who is not who's playing recklessly. So if we can get someone who can make that call, I think that would be really beneficial. Which is I think obviously a little different than having an observer. But those details are sort of yet to be worked out. I think we may not require that, but that may be something that that we have at say our state championship tournament. But all that right now is just conjecture. I'm not sure how that'll all play out.
Well, we're certainly interested to watch it all play out. We know that the most important thing for the students is great coaches. So it sounds like with you there, they have everything they need in terms of learning all the great things about Ultimate Frisbee.
Gosh, thanks. We'll see.
Now, if you want to follow Anne on Twitter, which she says she never updates, but we're going to make you follow her anyway, it's Anne of Vermont. So at Anne of Vermont.
And that's ANNE of Vermont. Different spellings of Anne out there in the world.
We have that right? It's with an E. It is with an E, right? Anne?
Yes, it is with an E.
Okay, good. Okay, we're right about that. And I don't know what else to say except thank you so much for coming on our show and telling us this great story. And I just want to stay in touch and hear all about what you've done and have lots of follow-ups because it's very exciting.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for all of the work that you guys do.
Well, thank you for thanking us. Thank you. It just is endless. It's all this thanking.
Yeah, we keep going.
All right, well, everyone, this was Ann Watson out of Vermont, and an exciting show. So, well, thanks again, I'll say it.
There you go.
So that was a fantastic interview with Ann, wasn't it?
Oh, I can't say enough good things about
She's
it.
the bee's knees.
She's the bee's knees.
She's the bee's knees.
Yeah.
Again, out of time, so we're going to wrap up with a couple things. I think we told everybody how to follow Ann Watson, right? So it was at Ann with an E of Vermont. If you want to follow Gamer Grip, it's at Gamer Grip USA. And remember, if you want to get your free 3 tubes, we're giving 3 tubes to 3 lucky fans.
Yep.
Tell them that you want your Gamer Grip and make sure to tag Cleats and Cufflinks or Cleats Cufflinks and Gamer Grip USA. What else you got from Nick? Anything?
I think that's it. It was a good show.
All right.
I enjoyed it.
Well,
Number 21.
Are we going to do another one before the old
I'd like to get one more in before the holidays. A kind of Yuletide show, you know.
So send us some stuff. Tell us what you want.
Some carols.
Yeah. Well, okay. Tell us what you want us to talk about, what you want to hear, and till then, we're out.
Jeffrey,
Nicholas.